Honorable Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, our Honorable General Secretary Johnson Asiedun Ketia, other National Executive members who are present here, the President of the NDC Professional Forum, Ambassador Sam P. Yali, your executives, your members, and I acknowledge delegates who have come from other parts of the world. I hear our UK representatives are here. I hear US representatives are here. I hear Canada representatives are here. And I hear our colleagues in China are watching us on a live stream at this very moment. And for our local members, that is those here in Ghana who have been able to join us, and those who are at home watching it on the live stream, let me express our sincerest appreciation to you for the work that you've done to chalk the success of achieving the 4th anniversary of this very wonderful organization. And I wish to thank Ambassador Sam P. Yali for the very kind words he said about me and for your kind invitation to be a part of this program. Indeed, it is a delight to be in your distinguished company once again following an earlier event that we held last year in Accra, where I took the opportunity to speak on some matters of national interest. I wish to do so once again. Your group, the Professional Forum, has filled a critical void which hitherto had, thank you very much. Your group, the Professional Forum, has filled a critical void which hitherto had remained unoccupied within the NDC. You have offered a pivot around which high-flying professionals across various fields have been organized to complement the efforts of other organs of the NDC to make it a more formidable organization. And I wish to congratulate you today on the decisions that were read by the General Secretary, formally admitting you as an affiliate organization of the NDC. The NDC is filled with some of the brightest and deepest minds in this country. Our party brims with men and women with outstanding and impeccable academic and professional credentials, whose handiwork can be seen in many of the gains that our nation Ghana has made so far. Our political philosophy is founded on social democratic principles, which emphasize egalitarianism and social equity. It makes us the party of choice for the vulnerable and the marginalized. We proudly stand as the party of the market women, the truck pushers, the head porters, the farmers, the palm wine tappers, the artisans, the disabled, and just about every vulnerable person in society. In the same vein, we're also the party for the banker, the academic, the scientist, the businessman, the lawyer, the trade unionist, the student, and every known professional under the sun. We raise no tribal, ethnic, religious, or socio-economic barriers to membership and support of our party. We do not ask your family relation or your affiliation before we accept you in our party. And we do not countenance discrimination of any sort. Unlike the philosophy held by others, one does not need to hail from a particular part of this country or to be born of a certain family to be considered for the leadership of our party. And this is the source of the strength of the NDC. Our preference for simplicity, modesty, a hands-on approach to public life, and governance that is anchored on our revolutionary antecedents have been disingenuously used by our adversaries as dubious proof of the lack of intellectual depth. To them, loudness and the froth devoid of substance constitute veritable proof of intellect. It was necessary, therefore, to dispel this false narrative through the systematic mobilization of our intellectual base in order to give them more visibility and offer a platform around which we can tap much deeper into their expertise and vast knowledge. Age-old myths and prejudices have led to victimization and intimidation of professionals who lean towards the NDC, and this has tended to dissuade many more professionals with stellar credentials from publicly associating with the party. The emergence of the Professional Forum has served to break the shackles and give confidence to such persons to publicly voice their support and put their knowledge at the disposal of our great party. On the back of this, I urge all professionals out there who identify with the NDC to boldly follow the example of you colleagues and do so openly and fearlessly. The battle to wrest governance of this country from the grip of this underperforming NPP government cannot be left to only a few people. It is a collective responsibility that you all cannot fail to join. The very idea that you harbor fears of reprisals by a vindictive government because one expresses their political beliefs is sufficient reason for us to throw in our lots to append this system electorally so that people may freely give meaning to their political beliefs. This fourth summit of the NDC Professional Forum is being held at a time when our country is also marking the 30th anniversary of the referendum that led to the promulgation of the Fourth Republican Constitution. Yesterday, 28th April, marked exactly 30 years since the 1992 Constitution came into being. The history of the drafting of this Constitution itself vindicates our all-embracing outlook as a party and illustrates the futility of the Dankwa-Buzia tradition elitist disposition. When after years of military rule, it was eventually decided that a new constitution be drafted to usher us into democratic governance with the active representation and participation of all segments of Ghanaian society, irrespective of their backgrounds, elements within what is essentially today's NPP, disparagingly sneered at the idea and claimed that they could not share the same platform with market women and farmers and fishermen, among others, in the writing of a national constitution. As fate would have it, this same constitution, with all its imperfections, drafted with the participation of the same market women and the fishermen and ordinary citizens of this land, is the very instrument through which the MPP has had the opportunity to govern this country on 4 separate occasions since it came into being in 1992. And Providence also ensured that this 30-year milestone fell at a time when those who would have nothing to do with the formulation of this Constitution are in power and have the occasion to make a song and dance about the anniversary of this Constitution, indeed with a complete address by the President. Time has proven us right in our insistence on the broad-based participatory approach to writing the 1992 Constitution. And it has also proven that the Dankwa Buzia adherents were wrong for their discriminatory stance against the masses of our people whose voices they sought to stifle. The 1992 Constitution was written to serve as a fulcrum around which democratic governance was to be conducted in Ghana. It is a document that reigns supreme and has as its key features the guarantee of the rights, freedoms, and liberties of the people of Ghana in whom sovereignty resides. The Constitution was meant to create a democratic state run according to the rule of law, and in which those rights conferred on citizens are strictly respected. In the last 30 years, this Constitution has served us well and set us apart from almost all our peers in West Africa as the leading democracy in the sub-region and one of the very best in the continent. Comrades, in recent times, however, and under the current government, many fundamental principles that should ground our democracy as dictated by the Constitution have come under threat. There have been aspects of the behavior of this government and the leadership that mimic the activities of brutal dictatorships. Freedom of speech, which we have in the past taken for granted, has recently become an elusive commodity. Mistreatment and harassment of opponents and critics of this government, arbitrary arrests and detentions, abuse of power, state-sponsored violence, thuggery and killings, attacks and clampdown on media practitioners, malicious prosecutions, closure of opposing radio stations are but a few of the anti-democratic ills that we are having to live with today. These hark back to the dark days of military dictatorship. There appears to be a determined effort by the current regime headed by Nana Akufo-Addo to roll back the democratic gains we have made and replace it with a fascist dispensation under which all must bend to the will of the government of the day or face retribution. Independent state institutions that are creations of our Constitution and who are supposed to shield citizens from abuse by the executives appear rather to be acting in concert with the executive to deprive the same citizens of their rights and freedoms. The independence of these institutions appear to exist now only on paper. In practice, many of them act as extensions of the government or the ruling party, doing everything in their power to further their interests. This cannot be an acceptable situation, especially for those of us in the NDC who gave birth to this Constitution and ushered in the Fourth Republic. We cannot accept this. We owe it to ourselves and the people of Ghana and generations yet unborn to mount a strong defense of our Constitution and insist that its express provisions be respected, not abused or bent to the will of an MPP government. I agree with those who have called for a comprehensive review of the Constitution after 3 decades of existence. The Constitution must be subject to change and amendment and should be carried out to meet the contemporary challenges and exigencies of the time. It is a belief we gave life to in the form of the constitutional review process, which was initiated by our late President, Professor John Evans Atta Mills of blessed memory. It is regrettable that, as with almost everything else, this government promptly has abandoned the work we did in regard to the constitutional review process and have failed to move the process forward. We in the NDC commit to continuing and finishing the process to ensure that the 1992 Constitution evolves into an even stronger document embodying the hopes and aspirations of the ordinary people of Ghana. More importantly, we would ensure that this our constitution does not become a relic of history, mentioned to garnish the rhetoric of politicians, but that it becomes a document whose provisions we show fidelity to not only in words, but also in deeds. Our country, Ghana, is at a crossroad. Bad governance and wanton economic mismanagement have led to unprecedented economic hardships, suffering and pain for our people. We currently wallow in the doldrums of decay, which require very urgent attention. This government has clearly lost its way, and it is poorly suited to the task of governance. Yes, I said that COVID had an effect on all countries of the world, and particularly on countries in Africa. But during COVID, there was also a windfall. Countries received enormous resources to help cushion them against the impact of COVID. Prudent use of those resources made countries emerge differently from the pandemic. And I said this during my lecture in Harvard, that even though we all face adverse effects of COVID, countries have emerged differently from COVID based on the effect and impact it had on them. We in Ghana emerged the worst country in Africa and many parts of the world in terms of our deficit to GDP, in terms of our debt to GDP, in terms of inflation, in terms of the weakness of our currency and currency stability, than all our neighboring African countries. Indeed, we are considered among the worst in the world to have emerged from COVID. And I said in Harvard during my lecture that it is believed that a lot of these resources that we received as a windfall were used for election 2020. Yes, I said that. I've come under attack since I made this statement. But the question is simple. We received $1 billion from the IMF to help cushion us from COVID. We received $500 million from the World Bank. We took $200 million, or 1.2 billion cedis, from the stabilization fund that the NDC government established. IMF gave us another $1 billion of SDR, that's special drawing rights. The World Bank, the Bank of Ghana, gave us 20 billion cedis to help cushion us from the effects of COVID. And I'm saying that what did we do with all this money in 2020 and 2021? Parliament presented a motion to ask for a parliamentary investigation into how the COVID funds were used. Who were those who threw out that motion? It's the NPP administration. The only way you can prove me wrong and say that that money was not used for election 2020 is to allow an independent forensic audit into how the money was used. So prove me wrong. Let's have an independent forensic audit into how the monies we received during the COVID pandemic were used. Simple. Tietia, no wahala. Anyway, I shall have ample opportunity on Monday, 2nd May, to make a full presentation on our national situation and what I think the way forward is. Today, however, we're here because of the professional forum. and I wish to commend our forum highly for your influential role and the efforts you put into our electoral mobilization in 2020. And it is my hope that we're going to use you more even for the battle of 2024. Yes. As the General Secretary said, we're going to give you the manuals, we're going to train you in the electoral process so that you can do your own training of all your members in how the electoral process is conducted. And each one of you in every polling station where you vote are going to be party agents. You're going to sit there the whole day. You're going to be in the collation centers, and you're going to stay there until the elections are collated and the results of the elections of 2024 are announced. And it is my hope, and I am certain, by the grace of God, inshallah, that NDC will emerge victorious in that election. Members of the Professional Forum, the footprints of your work are there for all to see, and that the expectation is that you will do even more in our quest to win the 2024 election in order to restore this country to the trajectory of good governance and economic prosperity. The people of Ghana are looking up to us with hope and optimism to salvage this nation from the grave situation in which we find ourselves. This reflects in the outcome of recent scientific polls and predictions by credible bodies, which show a high level of confidence in the NDC's chances of winning election 2024. This may be encouraging, but we do know that the only poll that counts is the one that is held on the day of elections, pitched against an incumbent that has performed so poorly and left our people smarting under excruciating hardships, but which has shown, as they did in 2020 elections, that they would resort to any devious tricks up their sleeves, including bloodshed and killing of innocent people, to hang on to power. We have a lot of work to do. We've drawn useful lessons from the episode of 2020, and we'll work even harder than before to win the confidence of the electorate through the tabling of well-crafted and impactful policy proposals, and more importantly, protection of the votes that we fully believe will be cast in our favor to emerge victorious in 2024. My comrades, my friends, your role as the professional arm of the NDC will come in very handy as we conceptualize and roll out the various processes towards the election, and we expect that you will be ready for the task ahead. Let me once again congratulate you for the effort you have put into shaping the image of the NDC and the work that you continue to do to improve our fortunes. Thank you for your kind attention, and may God bless the NDC Professional Forum. May God bless the NDC. Thank you.